Hi there, guys. Tony here with another podcast, and this is the third in the series, and I'm very pleased to be welcoming this guest who has had a big influence on my personal awakening, and I'm sure many others as well. He's a radio host himself, public speaker. He's been out and about a lot, traveling, getting word out, trying to raise awareness. Huge advocate for the Palestine-Gaza situation. And, pleased to introduce Max Igan. Hi, Max.
Hey, brother. Thanks for having me on the show. Pleasure to be here, having a chat to you.
Yeah, no problem. Now, you've been around, you've just come back from Peru. How was it out there? How's the awakening going in South America?
Oh, look, slowly but surely. It depends on where you are, of course. You know, I'm kind of in the jungle. I'm staying at a healing center, sort of half in the jungle, so I have a reasonably awake crowd come through there.
Yeah.
But as far as the general populace in Peru, I mean, it's a Catholic nation, so what can I say? Yeah. The vast majority of people there are non-conspiratorial. They don't even look at this. They live in a different world to the one we do, and they can't really see what the West is doing, you know.
Yeah, it's funny you should say that. I mean, I'm here in Cambodia. I'm in a Buddhist nation, and you just see, I mean, I've just had a debate with some very nice religious folk, but you just see the mind control, how deep it is, how much they are indoctrinated by these belief systems, which really sort of hold back consciousness, don't they?
Well, they do, and it's rampant in the third world, unfortunately, especially places like where you are in Cambodia and in Peru and all throughout South America. You know, heavy Christian influence. The Vatican has really made its mark on the place. And the culture in Peru, the pop culture is probably about 30 years behind what the West is. And so they've got a lot of development to go through before they're really going to see the rampant corruption the way it is. You know, before they start realizing that they're actually losing themselves to the system, it's going to take a little while before they, you know, that sinks home to them. And really, I mean, they may have refined it a little bit better by the time it comes around to them anyway. So, you know, they do it through the transfers of wealth all around the world. But the third world is not really ripe for awakening because they're not really seeing the corruption in their face. They're not involved in the big wars. They haven't lived in this sort of peaceful Western society where we've had all these freedoms and this television version of reality, and then had to go to war and seen our countries turn into police states and all that sort of stuff. I mean, a lot of these countries have got paramilitary juntas running them anyway. So, you know, the people are kind of used to seeing militarized police around the place, and it's a different world, and they don't really know what's coming down the pipe in regard to the whole global situation. It's a totally different world, and you'd be experiencing that there as well. I mean, it's great to do what we do from these places because it's comfortable and cheap to live there, but you're not really, you know, the focus that I'm directing in my shows, it's definitely not directed at Peru. I think it would be a waste of effort to direct it, you know, there because they're not really in control of what's going down anyway, you know. So you got to direct it, the attention to where it's needed and the focus to where it's needed, and it's sort of squarely should be focused on the West, the Vatican, the Crown Corporation, you know, the mechanisms of government that we've got running here in the West. They're the ones that are creating all the situation. And even when you look at the third world, they're the ones that are creating all the problems there as well. I mean, all this comes from the West, so that's really where the attention needs to be focused.
Yeah, to the head of the snake for sure. But it's exactly the same here as, like you say, you know, people have got no idea really what's going on with, you know, the banking cartels, anything. They just have no idea. So, yeah, as you say, get right to the root cause of it all. But I mean, the way I see it at the moment, Max, I don't know if you feel the same, but I kind of, I mean, I have good days and bad days. I see almost like a split at the moment where you've got a conscious gathering of people that are waking up and starting to evolve, but then you've got the other side of humanity that is quite frankly devolving. Do you see it like that, or what's your take on where we are at the moment? If it was a football match, say.
Well, yeah, it's almost like the race is splitting in two, you know. And just getting back to the third world for a second, I mean, you're right, they don't see it, and you won't be able to wake them up. But the best thing we can really do is to stop what the first world is doing before it is able to suck the third world into the trap that it's setting up for them. Because the third world just won't see the trap the way we do. but it is a trap. And the only way we can actually save the third world is to fix the problems in the first world. And hopefully that situation, they won't get sucked into what we're getting sucked into because we would have fixed it by them. But yeah, I mean, it's almost like the races are devolving. Some of the people who are locked into the system, the more tyrannical it gets, the more they put up barriers and the more the blinkers go up and the more they keep their head down and work harder because they just won't admit it. They're in cognitive dissonance. They cannot focus and they cannot at all believe what is going on around them, and they refuse to because the belief of it and the reality of it is just too painful for them to bear. It's a challenge to everything that they thought to be real. So we are seeing that with a lot of people. Of course, a lot of it is being done intentionally as well, like through the education system, what they're doing to the kids that are coming out of school, like all the kids that seem to have been born since the millennium. This generation of children are not like any other generation that we've seen. You know, the generation where everybody's a winner, everybody gets a gold star every day, everybody's a winner of the race. There are no losers. So everybody is fully demanding. These children, they're coming out into society and they just expect everything to be laid out for them. They're, absolutely enslaved to the nanny state completely, and it's quite shocking to see. So we're seeing that, but we're also seeing the people in cognitive dissonance. But I really don't think the powers that believe are going to get away with what they're doing because I think they're doing it too quickly. It's in too many people's faces now, and they're going to bring about a revolution themselves if they're not careful.
Yeah, no, I agree. I think really since the start of the year, there seems to be a shift where I'm personally speaking to more and more people that are waking up all the time because, as you rightly say there, the control grid, they're getting so desperate to get in there, push their agenda, to start these wars and whatever they want to do, that people are starting to put their heads up from the X Factor or what have you, and starting to sort of look at other things. And I think media is losing all credibility at the moment. Would you say?
Oh yeah, very much so. And with everything they're doing, they're just, like you say, they're ramping things up way too quickly. They push for mandatory vaccinations here in Australia, or people are going to lose their benefits and all this sort of stuff. I mean, this is absolutely disgraceful that they're doing this sort of thing. It's not even legal for them to do this sort of thing. We've got, and if you look at terrorism, you look at the word terrorism. According to the FBI, which was where the word was first coined, really, it means it's the unlawful use of force and violence against persons or property to intimidate or coerce. Okay, that's the definition of terrorism. And according to the dictionary, it's the use of violence and threats to intimidate or coerce. Bring about a state of fear. Now that's what they're doing. Now, in Australia here, we've got laws in our constitution. We've got a law which says our government prohibits civil conscription in order to receive welfare or childcare. This is in our constitution, and it also says that any preventative, diagnostic and/or medical intervention is only to be carried out with the prior, free, and informed consent of the person based on adequate information. The consent cannot be coerced out of any by way of financial blackmail, anything like that. So the government is in breach of its own law. So hopefully this will cause the people of Australia to stand up and call it. And it'll cause them to stand up. And they're even talking about bringing in, preventing people from travelling overseas if they're not fully up on their vaccinations.
Wow.
Which could be interesting, which means I won't be able to come home after November. I won't be able to come back to Australia if they're not going to let me leave. Or maybe I'll just have to come back and then say, okay, well, that's fine. If you're going to do that, I want to know who wrote the law because I wish to press charges against them for civil conscription and coercion, which is illegal under Australian law. If you're here enforcing this law, well, the law you're enforcing is not a law because the actual introduction of this law is a breach of law itself. And I need to know who signed off on it and press charges against them. So that's the attitude people need to have in the face of this. It's the same with the vaccinations, the forced vaccinations. They need to understand that it is forced civil conscription, it is coercion, and they can't fight the government and complain against the government. They need to find the person in office who signed off on the legislation because that person has broken the law. They need to locate that individual and press charges against them under the law. That's the way this needs to be overturned, and the legal system, it's all fiction, but we can use it against itself. Because the people out there, the sleeping masses, they believe the legal fiction's real. And at the moment, while the government isn't fully locked down into police state Gestapo mode, it has to pretend the legal fictions are real as well. So we can find these tools and use it against itself if the people are smart and they get up off their butts and start doing it. I mean, I can do it for myself, but I can't do it for them. People have to call it themselves.
Yeah. Well, this is a huge thing, and I think, it all comes down to, it comes down to courage as well, especially for parents. It must be difficult for them, especially if they're starting to wake up to this, because all of a sudden you're waking up to the fact that vaccines actually aren't good for you, education is indoctrination, and then you kind of have choices to make, don't you? And it must be very difficult when you've got that social hive mind where people are just so pro-vaccines, and although it's growing against that now, and so pro-education. It's going to take, I think, for a real shift in for future generations, it's going to take parents that are waking up now to say no to these things. Do you think?
Well, it is. It's going to take parents standing up to it and saying no. And it isn't even a matter of whether you're pro-vaccination or not. It's a matter of someone claiming a right of ownership over your body and breaking the law. Forced medication is an abuse of human rights. You can't do it. And if they're going to do it for vaccinations, whether you're pro-vaccination or not, you're saying it's okay to forcefully medicate people. That's what you're saying. And this is not cool. When is it going to be, with all the coins that they're terming anti-government extremists and all this sort of stuff, and saying that eco-fascism is what they're saying. People who protest the government, peaceful protesters are eco-fascists, is what they're saying.
God.
And these are the sort of terms they're coining. So when is eco-fascism going to be seen as a mental disorder, and they're able to forcefully medicate you? I mean, this is the sort of stuff they're allowing to happen.
You've got to love the Orwellian talk there, haven't you?
Oh yeah, they're brilliant at it. They make an incredibly fascist statement, like someone standing up against government fascism is an eco-fascist.
Yeah.
How does this work? So it's doublespeak. It's actually extremist ideology by members of government. This sort of thing, even labeling people eco-fascists. This indicates that certain individuals within government harbour extremist ideologies, because that's extremist thinking. Of course, they will label me an extremist for identifying them as an extremist. This is the way they do it,
Yeah, I've met you, Max, and you're really extreme, I must admit. It's really dangerous.
You're a dangerous guy, absolutely. So, I mean, this is the sort of problem that we're facing, and people aren't dealing with it in the right way, or they got people leading them down the garden path telling them, oh no, just think positive, stay at a high energetic state, all this sort of stuff. Well, yeah, you've got to be at the right high vibrational state. But don't look at all this information and think it's negative information. If it is, it's just because you have a failure to process light. You don't know how to process information. I don't look at all this as negative. I don't attach negative emotion to it. I see all of it as empowering, because now I understand the problem. It gives me the opportunity to stand up and address the problem and heal the problem. Absolutely. If people are going to get in these high energetic vibrational, I'm a vegan, whatever states that people are on, then if they don't apply it to the world, then what are they doing? What's it for? What does it mean? Does it mean anything,
Exactly. I mean, it's a good point. I see the New Age personally as one of the most dangerous things stopping human evolution. I mean, the way they've structured that whole, it is another religion in and of itself, isn't it? It's just ignore the negative, and it's just more escapism and more slave talk. Obviously, there's good bits in it, but I think people, like you say, have to be very aware when they start, because it appeals to the human psyche, doesn't it? It's all nice, it's all unicorns and rainbows, and when we're living in such dark times, you can understand why people want to sort of, go over to that, but people need to take a balance.
Yeah, it's a savior program, and it's a religion that scoops up all the people that aren't really into religion, and it gives you a lot of truth about the energetic nature of the universe and the electric nature of the universe. I mean, it's an electric universe. Everything's electrical. It's all electromagnetic. Even you are electromagnetic. And it gives you a lot of really good information, but then it locks you into this little bubble of spiritual narcissism where you're supposed to just focus on the internal and ignore anything negative around you, which is complete and utter rubbish. You've got to embrace the negative, embrace the shadow, because it's there for you to heal. That's why it exists, and it's just going to keep getting worse and worse the longer you continue to ignore it, the longer you fail to process light, because that's really what it is. It's about processing light. There is no such thing as negative information. It's just information. It's the emotion that you attach to it, because people look at this and they feel disempowered because they don't think there's anything they can do, and that is usually because they are afraid of stepping into their own power and simply speaking the truth and calling things for what they are. That's the big problem. Unfortunately, people have been trained into this, and they've been trained to think that if they vibrate at this high state, then everything's going to change around them without them applying themselves to it. But, you live in a 3D reality for a reason, and that's because you're supposed to participate in it. And you get all of these great spiritual understandings, and we could apply them to the world. And like I said, it's all electromagnetic anyway, so once you're in the right vibrational state, this stuff just doesn't affect you in a negative way. You can look at all this information, and it doesn't affect me as being negative because I'm already in that vibrational state. It's okay. It's just information. This is a temporary ride anyway, so it's what you do with it. And you shouldn't be afraid to look at the shadow, because the shadow is there for you to look at, and the shadow is growing in the world simply due to people's failure to look at it and their failure to face it, their failure to address it. You're never going to be able to heal the problems if you won't acknowledge what they are. And like I said, when you realize that it's an electromagnetic universe, everything functions electromagnetically. The matter, the way atoms work, gravity even is electromagnetic. It's not what they tell you. It's obviously not because of, the spinning ball. That is ridiculous. It's electromagnetic. Everything's electromagnetic. There's a video out, a movie called The Electric Universe came out quite a few years ago. Wonderful video. It explains how the sun is electromagnetic. It isn't a big ball of eating its own, fuel. It's harvesting electromagnetic energy from the space around it, because everything is electromagnetically charged. Tesla knew this. This is where he got all of his energy from. It just exists in the field. And if you know the right frequencies, you can tap into it. So it's the same with everything, and it's the same with us. And if you know the right energetic frequencies, you can tap into them, and you don't have a problem processing light in that way. I'm just amazed actually at the state of the so-called truth movement, if that's really what you want to call it.
Yeah.
I don't think we can call it that. But, the state of the independent media and the state of the response to this system in the last 12 months, it's just turned into a complete and utter schmozzle of division and infighting and hatred and personal attacks, and it's unbelievable. The people have been played like a fiddle, unfortunately, because they're not in this energetic state, I guess. They're just vibrating to all the wrong frequencies and being led down the garden path.
Yeah, we've got a long way to go in that sense, for sure. I mean, you only have to post something, and you're going to get comments and snipes, and it's all about growing up, isn't it? We need to look at people's point of views and be adult about it, rather than sort of sniping at each other if we don't sort of agree with anything,
Yeah, but it's gotten like that. I mean, and it's gotten to the point where if you don't agree with absolutely everything, absolutely every point they make, you're a shill, you're this, you're that. So yeah, it's not even worth getting into a lot of these online debates, Yeah. Just put your stuff out there and do what you can to make a difference yourself. But it's the hatred and the animosity that has to stop. We've got to allow people to think differently to what we do, the way we do it. It's okay. If people can think differently, you don't have to call them an idiot. You don't have to call them names and all the things that people are doing. It's ridiculous. It just creates division. We've all got a common focus here, and that is freedom. Whatever the path is to freedom, we have a real opportunity for that right now. I really believe that we do. For the first time in the human experience, we have an opportunity for freedom. We've never ever had it before, and I think it would be completely foolish if we squander that with infighting.
Yeah, absolutely. It's extremely interesting times, and although it can get very dark and depressing sometimes, and we've all been there, there can't be many other places around, if you consider the universe, that are as interesting as this planet at the moment. So it's kind of, if you look at it from that point of view, it's, as you say, it's a ride, isn't it? And you can get locked down into the fear of what's going to happen, or you can realize that we're just part of something that's almost like a game, would you say? I mean, it's not, but it is. But if you go really deep.
Well, yeah, it is. It is almost like a game. It is almost like a game. But, I don't know. it's not a real nice one sometimes.
No.
But, it's a game of consciousness, really. It's a game of self-discovery. It's a game of finding ourselves, and it's what we do with the information that we get. And we've got to stop putting concretes on things and putting ultimatums on things. Life is a learning experience. And, finding out what the truth is, well, the truth is going to be subjective to everybody. Everybody's going to have a different truth. And again, there may be one ultimate truth. And how are we ever going to find out if we're not prepared to respect each other and allow people to think differently? And it is a game. And I think it's a game of how to do that and how to find yourself enough to be able to respect yourself enough to be able to respect other people. Because that's ultimately it. I mean, if you're having trouble with people and you're lashing out and attacking people, it's because you don't know yourself. You don't respect yourself. A lot of these people who attack anybody who doesn't agree with their ideas, it's because they're fanatical. They don't have enough conviction in their ideas themselves that they have to be fanatical about it. I mean, that's what fanatics do. That's why a fanatic is constantly going on about it, religious fanatics or whatever. They've got this idea and this is all they can talk about and keep pushing this to you, is because they need to constantly reinforce their own belief in what they know deep inside them is a flawed concept. And that's what makes a person into a fanatic, because they have a very, very small amount of faith in their own convictions. So you've got to watch this and watch how people are and watch the people you're getting involved with online and watch where you're being led. I mean, ultimately it's about freedom and it's about respect. And I really believe that if we could know ourselves enough to respect ourselves and truly know ourselves and not be afraid of death, not be afraid to step into your power, not be afraid to call out what your truth is. And if everyone shouts you down, well, that's okay. It doesn't matter what they think. It's your truth. You don't have to hate them for shouting you down, and you don't have to hate them because they have a different truth. If we could just do this, we could change the world so quickly. Realize that we are all just men and women here, and that's really all it is. The government, it's just men and women as well. It's not these corporations, it's not all these clouds and things that we try to fight. We're just dealing with men and women. And we need to be able to stand in that and realize that's what we're dealing with and speak to them in that way. Ask the right questions and rally our community to do the same. Be a light in your community. Be a joy to be around. Help the people around you, so you've got the respect of your community so you can all stand together. And, we could change the world so very easily. We really could if we could just respect each other and stop all this fighting,
Yeah.
And, there's plenty of mechanisms in the legal system we can use. Like I said, all the things we can call these politicians out for abuse of office and treason. There's Gaza Strip, which I keep saying to people is a war crime, an open war crime. So every politician in the world who supports it can be arrested right now under their own law if people weren't too gutless to stand up and call it. They get locked into this whole Palestinian and Israeli and, Muslim versus Jew and all this sort of rubbish, It's kids in prison. That's a war crime that is being supported by all the politicians who are raping and destroying our countries, and that makes all their law invalid under their own law. That's a great opportunity for us if people would not say, oh, this is just negative information. No, it's not. It's an opportunity. It's an opportunity for you to stand up and be a man, and stand up and be a woman, and to respect life. It's an opportunity for you to heal the world. And if people aren't prepared to do it, then it's not going to happen. There's no golden ticket. There's no saviour program. There's no one great knowledge that we're going to find which is going to lead us to safety. The great knowledge we'll find really is within ourselves. The great knowledge we're looking for is our own personal power. And the great conspiracy is that there is any such thing as little people. Because,
Yeah, we're all very powerful. We just need to step into our power and lose that fear of what other people think of us. And it's great to see more and more people doing that more often now. Even family members for me now are starting to get this, and they're really speaking out, and they're almost, you can actually see them morphing into this, who they truly are. It's a beautiful thing to see when people are waking up. And like you say, we just need to do that more and more and lose that little me, what can I do syndrome that has been embedded in our consciousness for so many years. And they love us to think that, don't they?
Well, they do. They absolutely thrive on us thinking that, and thinking that we can't have big ideas. We need the more important people to take care of things. If there's a problem, we go to complain to our government. The nanny state will fix it for us. Don't ever look after your own problems. Train you this in school. You've got a problem with another kid, don't sort it out with him. Go to a teacher. We always got to get people to fix things for us and all this sort of stuff. The nanny state will be there, but hey, they're just people. They're just people like you, like everybody else. And they're the ones that are creating all the mess. So why on earth are you going to them and asking them to fix the mess they created? They want the mess, otherwise they wouldn't have created it. It's like the education system. It's dumbing the kids down, and we're all complaining about it. Oh, hang on, it's a government-controlled education system, and the government gets what it pays for. The government wants the kids dumbed down, otherwise they wouldn't be being dumbed down. So why don't we just call this out for what it is? It's not acceptable. Oh, we can't because the government, blah, blah. Oh, rubbish, just rubbish. The government writes all this rubbish on paper, and you go along with it. It's a paper-based reality. Well, what's that? What is that? Does that mean I can write down on paper that I can come to your house and steal all your stuff? It'd be okay if I put a fancy letterhead on it. No, it isn't. Oh, what if you vote me into office and I write down that I can come and steal all your stuff? Now it's okay, is it? How does that work?
But Max, I've got to ask you a question. Who would build the roads if there was no government?
Well, we need people who manage infrastructure.
That was joking, by the way.
Well, yeah, exactly. Well, the roads are already there anyway, so. But we need people that can manage infrastructure for us. I mean, there's certain companies, the government doesn't build the roads, the road company does, It's just a subsidiary the government controls. I mean, there's ways we could do things that are so much better. We could actually build roads to last out of proper things. We wouldn't have to repair them all the time. There's various ways we could do things, Exactly. But, I mean, there is no one step back to freedom. It's a series of steps we're going to have to take, A lot of the people who want anarchy, I mean, I'm basically an anarchist. I believe in self-governance. I think that's the way. I don't believe in the state at all. But you can't just completely dissolve the state now because millions of people out there wouldn't deal with it. They wouldn't know how to look after themselves. And when you start this movement and when you start speaking out, it's not about creating chaos. It's about freeing the human condition and changing the human condition. You don't want people to suffer along the way. So if you suddenly crash the system and say, well, let's all just be anarchists, well, people are going to suffer, and that's not what it's about. So you've got to educate people to the point where they are capable of self-governance. That's going to take at least 1, 2, maybe even 3 generations to do that. So we've got to be sensible about it. We've got to understand that what we've got at the moment, especially in the Western world, and with every other government which is subservient to the Western world, is a criminal empire. We've got a cacostocracy that runs the planet, and they're holding the other nations in sway either through bribery, coercion, or they've got something on the leaders or whatever. But, we've got to identify that we've got a criminal cabal that is running this world. They're just people. They're not anything special. Government isn't anything special. Government is a myth. It's a cloud that we invented. It's populated by people who are complete and utter criminals and scumbags who are waging war and stealing all the wealth of this earth that they can. We've got to identify that. We've got to remove these people from power, take them somewhere, put them on Christmas Island or whatever, leave them to whatever they're going to do. I don't particularly want to kill them or anything or arrest them or whatever. I just want them to stop messing with the world. Introduce something transparent, some sort of transparency in government, and then over a period of the next few years, make it smaller and smaller and smaller and more transparent. So we get it back to a point where it's simply an organization that manages infrastructure according to the will of the people. I mean, we need something like that, some sort of a pathway. I mean, I don't know. I mean, like I said, I don't have all the answers, but if we can all put our heads together, we'll find a way out of this. We'll find a way through this that is going to work, and we'll be able to put a mechanism in place which can lead us back to a point where we're capable of freedom and we're capable of self-governance. I mean, we've got the awareness now. The world is small enough. We just don't have the, the spiritual nous, overall, generally speaking, as a whole population. I mean, it's a blanket statement to make, but really, when you look at the whole world, I mean, you can't say that the population of this planet is ready for self-governance. I mean, they're not. No. And that's going to take some education for that to happen,
And I think on a deeper level, I don't think we will have that until we are ready. I think if you see this as a spiritual realm, then I almost feel that it's the universe is kind of giving us these hurdles to get over, and almost saying, if you look at statism, it's almost saying to us, look, how much longer do you need a nanny state? Because they're not serving you. When are you going to stand on your own 2 feet? When are you going to grow up? Because then I think when we get to that point, that's when we'll start to see the manifestation change. We'll get the things that we say we want. But as you say, it means sort of standing on your own 2 feet and stepping away and decentralizing.
Well, yeah, and it's a process, it's a process, of course, we're not going to get this until we're ready for it, but it's a process, and consciousness or spirit or whatever you want to call it is putting everything there for us. It's giving us every opportunity to stand up and call things out. And look, we've been doing reasonably well. Let's not judge the human race too badly. I mean, these psychopaths that are running the world are way, way behind in their schedule. They really are. It's they hope to have things in place years ago that they're still struggling to get in place. And the more they're struggling, the more the wheels are falling off because people are just becoming more and more aware. They're waking up in droves. Like I said, the stuff they're doing here in Australia, it's even my sister, who would never think would wake up. She's like 64. She's completely outraged, and she's out there spreading the word and doing everything she can. So, it's waking up people in droves all over the place. It's just helping these people have the right focus in what to actually do about it, And we need to realise that the strength we have of coordinated, respectful communities, that it's simply going to stand up and call this. We do have the strength of numbers, and you'll find that when this happens in the proper way, a lot of the police and military will even break ranks. A lot of the lower level politicians will break ranks. I mean, a lot of people can see this. They can see what's going on. There's a lot of people, even within the legal profession, who know that they're on the wrong side of history. Of course, the problem with the cops is it's a bit of a big boys club, and they're all on steroids, and they get in that group mentality, and they kind of egg each other along. And you've got the bad ones in there who are sort of pushing their lower level counterparts. So that's a bit of a worry. They're not real smart either, modern police. They've managed to lower the IQ on the induction rate quite significantly. So these people are kind of just smart enough to follow orders, and they've usually grown up in broken homes, and they've got had pretty rough lives. They've got a bit of a chip on their shoulders anyway, so they like the authority. So that's a bit of a problem. But still, I think there's a way through it, and I think that we are going to get through it. I think even we're going to see significant changes this year, because I think the government's just pushing too hard, and I think more and more people are going to stand up.
Yeah, absolutely. And I see the next 2 or 3 years personally as really pivotal as to where it's going. And, hopefully, like you say, the people will start breaking ranks. I know I've had quite a lot of not dealings as such, but I've spoke to a lot of people within the military, and, they are amongst, unfortunately, the heaviest brainwashed people, because I feel like they don't want to give up their hero status. So that needs to go as well. We need to, instead of having days where we support the troops, we need to not support the troops. We need to completely take that away from them. I think that's key at this stage.
Yeah, I think it is as well. I really do. But that's going to take a bit of doing. But again, a lot of them are saying it. A lot of them are saying that they weren't fighting the wars for the right reasons, and they were lied to, and so the wheels are falling off, mate. I really think the wheels are falling off.
Exactly. So, I mean, just going back to Australia, I mean, it's kind of like seems to be like they trial things there first, almost, with the vaccines and everything. Is it kind of like an example nation? Do you think?
Look, yeah, they trial things here very, very much. It's kind of where they test out and see if they can get away with it. But I mean, they do it all over the place. But Australia is a very, very controlled nation, a lot more controlled than the people would ever believe. I mean, I really see it when I come back here from overseas. You see just how controlled it is. Everyone's walking between the lines. Everyone's doing what they're told. Everyone's cowed and scared to look up, and scared of the police and scared of the government. And it's just ridiculous. But it's interesting. It's been interesting to see. But it's really happened quickly here as well. And I don't know, the people just seem to be going along with it for the most part. But again, you can't tell. You can't really tell what's going on in the suburbs and what's going on in the minds of people. I mean, as they say, the revolution will not be televised. So the media doesn't tell you. The media will never tell you what people are actually thinking. But when you go out and talk to people on the street, a lot of people are very, very concerned about the state of this country and the state of the government and the actions of the government. So it's a bit like a tinderbox at the moment. One spark in the right direction, and hopefully we'll get some sort of an uprising, a peaceful uprising, an eloquent uprising, and hopefully we'll be able to set an example for the rest of the world.
Exactly. You always wonder why for such a big country, it's a small population. So it seems like it was groomed for that all from the start.
Yeah, well, easy to control. They only need enough people here to run the mines. It's set to turn into a big mine. So they're going to destroy our food bowl probably this year or next year when they run the Commonwealth Games. They're going to open up the Darling Downs for mining, I'd say. So, and they're going to make it harder and harder and harder for people to leave the country, like they're doing with this vaccines and all this sort of stuff. So, but we'll see it everywhere. Yeah, if they get away with it here, we'll see it everywhere. And if they can get away with it here, well, it's a low enough population for them to be able to control. I mean, you kind of think, well, it's a low population, 26 million people. It should be easy to stir this country into action. But you've got 26 million people that are spread out over this entire continent, which is, over twice the size of Europe. So, it's really, really hard to coordinate these people. They live so far away. We got way much open space here, big properties and big houses and lots of space between you and the people next door. So it's very difficult to coordinate people.
Like you say, hopefully it can be a shining light down there. And just going into one of the subjects that's really close to my heart is Gaza. Now, I know you were trying to get back in there a couple of years ago to do a documentary. They've been left, I know they're still heavily suppressed and there's daily things going on which are horrific, but the bombing has stopped for now. Do you think that they cannot get away with it anymore because of the huge response of when they did it last time?
No, they can get away with it. They are getting away with it. They're still attacking fishermen and shooting people. What they're doing in the West Bank at the moment is outrageous. It's not just Gaza, it's all Palestine. And Netanyahu is preparing for another war with Gaza because it looks like there may be another war with Gaza on the cards. Of course, they're going to start another one, They just like doing it. They like terrorizing these people. They want to exterminate all the Palestinians. They view them as worse than dogs. And yeah, they'll just get away with it. They'll get away with it while we continue to allow our governments to support it. That's the thing. And everything that they're doing, every time they do an incursion into Gaza, it's an opportunity for us to stop the coal seam gas mining in this country, to stop the forced vaccinations in this country, to stop everything they're doing, because Malcolm Turdbull, our Prime Minister, who is enacting this legislation, is an open supporter of the State of Israel. The State of Israel is carrying out war crimes, a breach of the Fourth Geneva Convention. Therefore, Malcolm Turdbull can be arrested and every piece of legislation he's written can be rolled back because all of it's invalid because it was all enacted by a provable war criminal. And this is the same for every politician in the United States, because you've got to sign the AIPAC pledge and even to get funding in the United States. And every politician who signs the AIPAC pledge is guilty of treason. They're all supporting a state that's carrying out war crimes. So they're all war criminals by default. So all the legislation they've written is invalid under their own law. It's illegal to support war crimes, even under our constitutional law, under our local law, let alone the Fourth Geneva Convention and international law and all of that stuff. But even under your own local law, they call it like material support for terrorism. Even under the anti-terrorism laws that our new governments have brought in, the fact that these people are funding Israel, they're all in breach of their own legislation, if we were to call it. And that's why I focus on it so much. It isn't because I particularly love the Palestinian people or hate the Jews. I don't. I mean, I've got Jewish friends. But I'm really pissed off with the state of Israel. But it's the state. It's the mechanism of Israel. The supremacist ideology I disagree with because I disagree with Judaism, the same as I disagree with all religions. I think all religions have a seed of supremacism at their root. But that's just me. Hey, that's just my opinion. If you're into religions, well, fine. You're welcome to it. Just don't inflict them on me, So, we can look at this sensibly and realize that Gaza Strip provides a key for us to actually be able to heal this entire planet if we could just look at it and open our hearts to the children in Palestine. But they're suffering terribly, and Israel will go in. It'll just keep doing it. It's even saying now that any child who throws a rock at a tank in West Bank, the family gets their home bulldozed and they're going to move the entire family to Gaza Strip. So, wow. It's just out of control what Israel is doing. The amount of organ harvesting that's coming out of there as well. All these Palestinians disappearing into Israeli jails, never to be heard again. And we see massive amount of organ sales coming out of Israel. So they're just harvesting Palestinian organs and shooting kids. There are 41 children killed in the last 5 months, Palestinian children shot by Israeli soldiers. Now, if any other state, if there was 2 Jewish children, Israeli children shot by Palestinians in the last 5 months, they'd be at war with them. And the whole world would be outraged about all these terrible Palestinian terrorists. But Israel can go in, kill 41 kids in 5 months, killed over 2,000 kids since the year 2000, killed 560 kids just in that incursion in there in 2014. So, there's no talk of this. Shoots fishermen off the shore all the time, puts a wall around the place, besieges them, attacks them, sprays their crops, takes pot shots at them. 44,000 disabled people in Gaza Strip now, permanently disabled. From just Israeli bombs. They're living in blown up ruins. I mean, the world just, they're terrorists. Rubbish. Benjamin Netanyahu is a terrorist. He's the worst terrorist on the face of the earth. And every politician who supports him is also a terrorist. All of them are war criminals, and all of them should be arrested, and they could be if we had the balls to stand up and call it. So that's what I've been saying. It's an opportunity. And if you say that this is, you're focusing on the negative and Gaza, rubbish. You're an idiot. You got blinkers on. You're just too afraid to step into your own power and call this out because you don't want to heal the world. You just want to continue the fight because the fight is your life. And that is unfortunately the way a lot of the alternative media is. They're too caught up on the fight. They're too caught up on being right. They're too caught up my way or the highway or starting a new religion or whatever it is they want to do. Be it the latest guru. No one's prepared to actually call things what they are, stand in their power and just stand up and heal it,
Yeah. And it's such amazing people as well. I've got friends there, just how they, when you Skype them, they're smiling, and it's like, they really do teach the world how to live, really, don't they? When you think times are hard, or you feel like giving up with all this, because you often do, they're one of the main reasons I personally will carry on until the day I die, and I'm sure you feel the same about that.
Yeah, they're beautiful. They're beautiful people. They really are. Some of the most kindest, generous, most loving people I've ever met. They have an incredible light in their eyes. You go there and meet them, and they're absolutely wonderful, living in the most horrendous conditions. They hold themselves with such dignity, and they're so giving and caring. They'll share food with you. They want to know you, and they'll give to you. And you talk to them. Yeah, I'm fine today. We've only got electricity for 2 hours and no hot water and no running water, and there's disease and death and poverty everywhere. But hey, I'm fine. How's your son? And it's incredible the strength of these people, and they're providing an opportunity for us to heal the world if people had the brains to call it and could put down their fear of calling it, and put down their fear of being a powerful person, put down their fear of being a beautiful, unique, powerful person like everybody is. It's been training and indoctrination that has led us to believe that we can't make change and we can't do things, and we've got to compete with others and all this sort of stuff. It's rubbish. It's rubbish. There's plenty of mechanisms in place that we could use to call this out if we can put down our personal fear and respect each other enough to listen to their ideas and their opinions as well.
Sure. And I know you got a little bit roughed up a few months ago, didn't you? From doing a talk about Palestine. So,
well, yeah, basically from saying what I said there and saying it's an opportunity for healing the world. It's par for the course. You got to expect this sort of thing. So it just strengthened my will, really.
Yeah, exactly. It makes you try harder, I bet. Yeah,
for sure. A little taste of what it's like to be a Palestinian.
Exactly. So, you're a person. You've just started looking at this information. You're just starting to wake up. What would you advise people out there that are just starting to look at this information? What's the best sort of train of action for them?
Link up with people in your community who are like-minded. Share information with people around you. I've got a project called the Full Circle Project. You can log on to. You can find people in your area through the Community Connector. Link up with them. Form action groups and identify an issue in your local community, something that the community's annoyed with, pissed off about, something the government's doing, and go for it. Start addressing this, but address the abuse of office that's created the problem. Realise you're dealing with people. You're not dealing with government. We've got to start approaching government, approaching our local councils, and realise that we're dealing with people and calling them out for what they're doing, and doing so in a way that you're going to wake people up around you. I think that's the most effective thing. We've got to start these grass fires all around the world. Have people that are addressing the vaccination calling abuse of office on the legislation that created the problem. People that are doing The coal seam gas protesting, calling abuse of office on the legislation. People that are protesting the homelessness, calling abuse of office on the legislation. Going for the people who draft the legislation, because these are your employees. They're public servants. They're causing harm. It's illegal to cause harm. You can't cause harm, injury, or damage or violence to other people. All this government does is cause violence. I read you the definition of terrorism earlier. That is exactly what government is doing. We've got to call it. But we've got to do this with the strength of the community behind us. So you need to link up with people in your area and form action groups and have the strength of numbers in your approach and stand up in a non-conspiratorial way, a non-violent way, and simply ask the right eloquent questions in a way that is going to publicly embarrass these people and expose them for what they are. You do that, you wake people up in droves, and that's what we need. We need a huge groundswell of awareness. So anything people can do to bring awareness to those around them and to form action groups in their area is what I would be recommending people do.
It's so important to decentralise and to get that community spirit back, which has basically been beaten out of us by those who wish to control us. They've divided us so much, haven't they? So to even organise a local meeting close to where you live, down the pub or whatever, is an act of rebellion in itself.
Well, yeah, and a lot of people are too afraid to do it, They want someone else to organise them. They'll go and join the community connection and then wait for someone to contact them. They won't instigate it themselves and start the contact themselves and start the group, because then they may have to lead the group and they don't want to lead. They're too scared to lead, So it's an interesting thing, but we need people to start leading themselves, And people do need to start making a difference. If they really want to have a future, they need to call it out now and realise what a wonderful opportunity this time is. It really is. We've got everything that we've ever needed. The internet has made the world so small. The workings of the mechanism are completely bare for everybody to see. And it's not negative. It's just information. And it's a real opportunity for us to heal this situation if we're prepared to step into it. So hopefully that's what people are going to do,
Exactly. And it's moving away from fear, isn't it? Fear's a big one.
It is. And just get away from the saviour programs. Like I said, there is no one knowledge or one thing that's going to fix this. It's each individual out there understanding themselves and realising the strength and beauty of themselves and standing in that and empowering those around them with their own light. That's what's going to change things.
Exactly. All right, Max. So thanks for that. How can people contact you? Where can we find more about what you're doing? I know you're speaking at Free Your Mind in Philadelphia, which is going to be a huge event, isn't it?
Yeah, that's in April. I'm speaking at Free Your Mind. I'm actually speaking at the Maitreya Festival in Victoria this weekend, which is an interesting thing. It's a kind of a New Age festival. I get a lot of flack from people saying, "Oh, look, he speaks at New Age festivals," but hey, it's a good thing, because I spoke at Rainbow Serpent last year as well, and the organisers of the festivals, they're going, "Well, look, we need people like you to come to these New Age festivals and speak to these people, because these people have all been led down the wrong path and they need a serious wake-up." So it's great that they're getting people like me in to come and re-educate the New Agers into actually how to apply this New Age understanding they've got to the physical world and present it to them in the kind of the language they can understand. Fortunately, I come from Byron, so I can speak to people in New Age lingo. I can let their guard down. I can kind of lead them back to a little bit of self-responsibility and actually applying their understandings of the energetic universe to the physical world they live in, which is a really good thing, which is why I go to a lot of these festivals and speak at them. So I'm doing that next week. I'm doing Free Your Mind in April. I'm doing the AV7 in the UK in May, and I'm also doing the Open Mind Conference in Amsterdam the following week on the 21st of May. And there may be a couple of other talks as well, but I'm really not sure at this stage. But I'll be back to Peru on April 5th. But I'm only there for like 5 days, and I've got the trip to the United States and blah, blah, blah. So we're very, very busy from now until probably mid-June. And then I actually get a chance to relax and hopefully work on the film, which is why I'm actually in Peru, apart from it being nice and cheap to live. But you can find out all that information and everything about me on thecrowhouse.com. And if you want to join the Community Connector and form an action group in your area, the website to do that is fullcircleproject.net. So you'll find out all about me on those two websites.
What is the film that you're making about? just quickly?
Well, I've got one film half finished that I'm making about the Amazon, which I actually started making in 2014 or 2013, but it's been on the back burner, and I'm working on another film, which will be kind of part 2 of Transformation, the film that I put out in 2012. That was kind of a part 1, and part 2 I'm working on, which is called Kakistocracy. And I've got a lot of work to do on that. That's basically half scripted at the moment, and I want to try to finish the Amazon film and work on the new one while I'm in Peru from June onwards.
Brilliant. All for the greater good. Great stuff. Well, Max, thanks a lot for your time, and good luck on your travels and your speaking, and thanks for everything that you do, brother, and we'll catch up soon.
Not a problem, brother. My pleasure.
Thank you.
Okay, bye-bye.